Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of What I Feel Like Friday. Today's video is inspired by a tweet I sent out earlier in the week that kind of went over my somewhat surprisingly large and crazy travel schedule from this past year. I sent out a tweet the other day that basically reflected on all of the trips I took in 2017, and yeah, it's probably the most traveling I've done in any given year in my life. It's been building up in the last couple of years as I've been trying to attend more and more gaming events and stuff. And yeah, it was so I just kind of wanted to reflect on that in video form here. So this year started with a trip to San Antonio for PAX South, as I've done the last couple of years in January. That was fun. I got to see kind of my Texas group of friends there at that event. Had a great time. Got to play the Switch for the first time. That was a lot of fun because that was a couple months before it came out, and they had it there on the show floor for everybody. It was also the event staff kind of didn't know what they were doing on the first day of the show. So the first day of the show, if you go as media, media gets an extra hour early on the convention floor. It's only the first day of a PAX show, and it's only that first hour. So you get to basically cut the lines or whatever. You can play as much as you want in that first hour before the rest of the throngs of people show up. The person kind of manning the doors where we were supposed to line up basically just let me in at 8, 2 hours early. Basically she thought I was an exhibitor or whatever, so I just kind of wandered around the show floor before I'd tried to play anything, but I kind of wandered around to see what I might want to play in that first hour. So yeah, I had an extra hour on the show floor that I wasn't supposed to have. Oops, but it was cool. It was a fun, unique experience. And yeah, I got to hop in, and that was where I played Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time. Played that for about 15 minutes, and then I played a handful of other things. And yeah, PAX South was fun. It was a cool little thing that I got to be one of the first people in the public or whatever to play on a Nintendo Switch. That was a neat thing that happened this year. From there, I went on a kind of impromptu trip to Los Angeles to go visit my friends Joey Noel, Lauren Wilson, and Ben Bellevue. We kind of got together and made plans to go to Harry Potter Land over at Universal Studios, and I think we did that in February, I think is when we were there. And that was wonderful. It was just kind of hey, I haven't seen these guys in a little while. I want to go to Universal Studios. I want to go to Harry Potter Land. The Costco near me, the Costco that I used to work at actually, was selling discount passes for it. So I was like, hey, you guys want to do this? And I went out, I drove out for a weekend, and we did that. So that was a great time. And then a week later, me and Cameron Abbott, the unsexiest comedian, we took a weekend trip and drove up and visited some friends in Vegas. So we went and saw our friends Danny Juarez and Griffin Guccione, and Tony Horvath was out there at the time. Fred Sullivan was out there. So yeah, we got to go hang out with them for a night in Vegas. Basically, we drove up Saturday, I think, and then drove back Sunday. So it was a quick turnaround trip. But it was a fun little adventure as well. Then in March, I went to Boston for PAX East. That was a ton of fun. It snowed, and it's probably one of a handful of times in my life I've actually been in snowfall. So that was exciting. And then I also just had I always love PAX East because that's where I get to see so much of the Irrational Passions crew, and they were there in full force this year and really kind of working the show, and so it was great kind of working the show alongside them in a way. I wasn't doing anything with Irrational Passions, but I was doing a lot of stuff for Trevor Trove at the time, and yeah, that was a delightful, fun, event-filled trip. We were also there right around the time that Kind of Funny was undergoing all their change because of the tweet. It was very much in the midst of the tweet controversy, and Greg was kind enough to join us for a little small get-together Thursday night for dinner, and that was where we first started talking about the idea of him coming out and joining us for Irrational Passions Extra Life. He basically was like, I'm in, I totally want to do that, let me know. I'll come and do it. And so it was really cool to kind of be there at the beginning stages of that. And then, yeah, it was just kind of a great weekend seeing all those guys. In April, I went to San Francisco to marry Nikki Powell and her now husband G, and that was wonderful. She pinged me a month or two out. We talked about it a little bit, kind of in advance of like, hey, their first choice was Jared Petty, and he was gonna be their minister, and as he moved over to EA, it looked less and less likely that he'd be able to do it. So they kind of put me into to reserves, and it was an incredible honor to go out and be a part of their special day, and I love them dearly, and it was great getting to see them last week when I was with them in Anaheim for Disneyland, which we will get to, and PSX and all that other stuff. So that was a great trip. I also got to, that was another trip, I was in San Francisco for a couple days beforehand, and got to grab dinner with Greg at one point during there, and we kind of talked about, he had the kind of ideas, I think, sprinkling for what would turn into Kind of Funny Games Daily. He was talking about the idea of like maybe bringing in contractors as like guest hosts for a thing that he wanted to do as kind of the evolution of PS I Love You XOXO. So it's great getting to just kind of have a nice, quiet one-on-one dinner with him at that, and that was just, again, like, he has been so incredibly supportive of me, and I'm like eternally grateful and humbled and blessed to consider him a friend in the last few years. My next trip was Disneyland in, I think, May. It was right after Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had come out, and I think it was May. It's a little somber trip because it was basically my parents and I went out there to celebrate the life of my grandmother who had passed away, my father's mother. So I took some of my bereavement leave and went out there for a couple days to get away and have a nice couple of days with my parents, and that was a very nice family trip. Unfortunately, it came as a result of some unfortunate circumstances, but it was still a much needed and much appreciated time away. Then it was back to San Francisco for Kind of Funny Live 3, which was wonderful, but also overwhelming at times. I'm certainly kind of feeling that, I think, a little bit more and more with each Kind of Funny Live, in that as they get bigger and bigger, and I just like know more and more people at these events, I end up getting overwhelmed in not being able to devote as much time to certain people as I'd like. I feel like I'm spread very thin at events like that, and it's great, and I love getting to see everybody, but I personally thrive on more focused, intense conversations, one-on-one kind of stuff, as opposed to the bigger mass events like that. So it's a bit of a struggle, and it is very much where my introversion kind of kicks into full gear, and I freak out a little bit and have to try and play the role of the extrovert more than sometimes I'm comfortable with. But Kind of Funny Live is certainly where I've made so many friends over the years, and so it is definitely a near and dear show to my heart, and I can't wait for Kind of Funny Live 4. Then a week or so later, I got to turn around and go back to LA for my very first E3, which was a wonderfully incredible experience as somebody who's wanted to go to E3 since a guy I knew went in between my junior and senior year and brought me back some swag that he got from there. It's been on my radar, and to get to finally go this year, a little less special because they did open it up to the public, so I could have gone anyway, but the fact that I got to go there, and I was media because my friends at IGN hooked me up and got me in, was a dream come true. Up next I had Seattle for PAX West, which was another incredible trip, and this is one where I definitely did make a pointed effort to kind of make it more of a solo trip. I didn't do the normal room sharing thing I do. I just kind of had my own hotel room and just kind of stayed to myself when I needed to. I still hung out with friends, but there was definitely a day entirely where I just kind of like I did get overwhelmed by the number of people at PAX West on Monday, I think it was, the last day of the show. And so I walked in the show floor, walked around a little bit, and was like, nope, too many people, I got to get out of here, I got to go, and just basically vegged out in my hotel room that whole day. And yeah, that's definitely the kind of, just as a look into the mental toll sometimes of these shows, is that I'm an introvert by nature, and so being in these settings sometimes can be crucially overwhelming, and that was one of them. All in all, a great experience. Still, I loved that I got to see some people that I hadn't gotten to see all year, but definitely a double-edged sword. I had a quick trip to Denver for a work conference for my day job, which was fun, and I kind of basically made sure to get together with some of my friends in Denver, like Alex Van Aken and Ryan Offman. Got to see them. Erin Thatcher, who was a kind of funny Facebook admin, happened to be there the same weekend. She's normally in Texas, I think, but she was there. So we basically did an impromptu kind of funny meetup there while I was in Denver and while she was in Denver, and so we got to hang out with the Denver crew for a little bit, and that was delightful. Certainly the only thing I really remember from that from my time in Denver, not the conference at all. So it was a work trip, but I made it a personal fun trip. We had one of my favorite trips of the year, a trip to Maryland for IP Extra Life. Again, something that had been certainly in the works since PAX East. Alex and I kind of talked about me going out there last year at PSX. When we were at dinner one night, I said I wanted to go out and be a part of Extra Life if he would have me. So that was a ton of fun. It was certainly a whirlwind weekend, and there are a lot of moments of it that are a blur. Fortunately, they've been releasing all the videos from the weekend, so you can go over to youtube.com/irrationalpassions and see kind of all the different segments we had. And I've certainly got that to kind of keep the memories alive. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. So many great people, and just kind of, great friends, great intimate experience, which again is what I really thrive on, where I got to really have those one-on-one conversations with people while we were either on camera or off camera. It was a wonderful experience. And then lastly, just last week, I was in LA and Anaheim again for the Game Awards and PlayStation Experience and another Disneyland trip. And this was wonderful, great chance to kind of see, again, a lot of people that I only get to see once or twice a year. We got an Airbnb a block away from the convention center, so that was great. It was also near Disneyland. My feet were killing me by the end of the 4 days because you had Game Awards Thursday, then I was at Disneyland on Friday, then PSX Saturday and Sunday, and then Disneyland again on Monday. And by the end of Monday, I was just beat. And then I flew back Tuesday morning and went straight to work Tuesday. So it was a long week. But it was a great time, and I'm so glad I got to see so many of those people. It was a wonderful trip. All these trips this year were a great time. I am sad that I will probably be doing less traveling this year, but I'm gonna take some time and some of that money and try and save up and maybe look elsewhere to some things. Maybe I'll invest in a down payment or something on a house. So definitely planning on kind of stepping back from travel. Like, for example, I don't plan on going to PAX South next month. I think I'm going to sit that one out this year. And I don't even know, I think that the big ones that I'm looking forward to next year are Kind of Funny Live, PlayStation Experience, because that is my show. It's the first one I ever went to, and so it's one I plan on continuing to go to. And then maybe a PAX East or PAX West. I don't know if I'll do both. I don't think I'll do E3 again, just because it wasn't a great experience with 15,000 extra bodies running around until they kind of get their stuff together and figure out how to make it a show that can be a trade show and a consumer show. And then hopefully I can be a part of IP Extra Life again. That was a ton of fun. So hopefully I can make it back out for that trip next year, assuming they do it again. So yeah, that was my year in travel and kind of me looking ahead to next year. I'm so grateful for all the friendships I made this year, all the people I got to meet, all the people I knew but I got to see again. It was a ton of fun. And just a wonderful year. I've been very blessed to be able to take so much time away from work to go and do these events all throughout the year. If you count that out, it's 12 events I went to, on average a thing a month. I wouldn't change it for a world. It was a great time all around. But I think as I head into 2018, I'm going to maybe cut back on a few events and try and save up for some kind of down payment on a house and be, adulty and do that kind of thing. So we shall see. Let me know what events you enjoyed in 2017 in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.